Okay.
What is up? This is from the Ground Up podcast.
Ow.
Big emphasis on the up. Welcome to the number 5 science podcast in Indonesia. Nesia.
I feel like you should say the 5th.
Oh, and I'm going to say it again. Thank you guys so much for being here. So if you guys want to check out what we have available on our website, we have some isopods and some other cleanup crew. We have springtails. Hopefully we'll have air at springtails soon. But yeah, so any of your isopod needs, we have the go-to tropical species, as well as we have some animals that will work in some arid environments. Overall, we have some cool morphs. I've been loving the lavis, Porcilio lavis.
Sounds dirty.
Oh, it's so dirty. They're they're cleanup. What do you mean? They're not dirty. They're cleaners.
You know, it sounds like not dirty.
Milkback.
It doesn't sound dirty.
It
sounds adult dirty.
Ah. So we have the milkback morph, which is like a gray, brownish coloration with a creamy center going down the top of it. We also have the dairy cows. So I finally got those for people who listened to the podcast before. We were talking about potentially getting dairy cows. We did it.
Oh, you can say you did it. I had no part in any of this.
Oh, did I say we? Usually you get mad when I don't say we.
Yeah, this one I'm okay.
Oh, okay. Wow, first time.
Stop. Huh? They don't know. Keep
No,
talking.
Sorry. So, podcast, getting to it. So today we have
no. Where are we going this weekend?
This weekend we're going to Southeast Carpet Fest. Thanks for keeping me on track. So if you guys want to check out, Southeast Carpet Fest has an auction on the Southeast Carpet Fest group on Facebook. And they have a bunch of really, really cool, awesome things to check out. They have a voucher for us for $150. They also have a voucher from a lot of other really, really cool people, as well as some really cool, like one-of-a-kind items in which you won't find anywhere else. And if you're going to Southeast Carpet Fest this weekend, we'll see you there.
Yes. Okay. Podcast time.
So excited. Just to be warm, to be with all the reptile people that we haven't met yet, because we haven't been out to Florida, and there's like a whole different group of people there, and I can't wait to meet everyone and to hang out for the weekend, and hopefully we'll film a video or something while we're there.
You're bringing camera equipment in our 2-inch space allowed by Spirit?
Yeah. It may not be approved by Spirit, but I will bring a Canon G7X and 2 lapel mics. I think I can figure that out.
Okay, that's pretty small.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But I mean, you really got to be careful with that Spirit Frontier, folks. They're real serious about the carry-ons.
Okay, can we talk about the podcast?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Oh yeah, I was on a podcast. Sorry, James, I messed this up. The Reptile Gumbo podcast. I was on that podcast with James Lewis and Carly Jones, and you get to join me on my ride through Pennsylvania, and Carly and James talking about all different types of reptile related things. Why am I doing so bad at talking tonight? I think this is a sign in which, and if I start talking well, you're coughing, so it's a really good combo. So we need our guest to talk to really save us in this predicament here.
Such a good intro, let me tell you.
So today's guests have a whole variety they have old world rat snakes, as well as ball pythons, as well as skinks. So
as well
Ryan
as
Goodman
beards
and Ben Levin of R&B Reptiles. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's up? Hey, John. What's going on?
Nothing, guys. So I want to kind of start off. Why don't we start off at the beginning of how you guys met?
Sure. Can I ask you one quick question though?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
What Carpet Fest is in what town again?
Melrose, Florida, right outside. Or
should I have said that?
You should have.
Yeah, probably.
2 hours outside of Orlando.
We'll see you there.
Orlando. I don't know. We're just like, oh, it's this weekend. Maybe we should fly down. And I'm looking up flights right now.
What?
Well, Spirit flight, whatever, leaves at
4:55.
I'm in.
At Atlantic City, out of Philly.
Out
Yeah.
of Philly.
You fly out of Atlantic City?
We do. Spirit does.
We never thought about
Interesting.
that, to be honest.
It's usually cheaper to fly up AC if you want to take the commute.
How far of a drive is
Is it
that?
north or south of it? Is it north or south of Orlando?
This is riveting for your
South?
listeners.
Yes.
Let's talk more logistics. So,
If you happen to get in around 7:45, you can ride with us.
What?
Dang.
imagine that.
But I mean, the chances of you getting a flight for 4 days from now seems very slim.
It's possible, I believe.
You.
So how we met?
How we met?
We met at church.
Yeah.
We grew up together, and as wee lasses, or laddies, wait,
Yeah, laddies.
Hmm.
Lads.
lads,
Because we're both Scottish now.
laddies.
He's German. Don't listen to him.
We met in Sunday school when we were like 3, and tolerated each other for a while, and then we kind of fell apart. But you know, life catches up with you, and then I tricked him into going to a reptile show one time, and Ben can take it from here because he's still salty about it.
I'm not salty. He was like bugging me for like a couple years because we used to hang out, and then life happens and we just don't see each other, and then he was like, "You got to go to a reptile show," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not even into reptiles, like whatever." For like 2 years, and then finally I was like, "All right, fine. I never get to hang out with you. Let's do it. When is it?" And he was like, "I'll call you right back." I'm like, "Okay." He calls me back in like 15 minutes. He's like, "All right, it's in Daytona, and it's like a month away." And I'm like, "Daytona, Florida?" So
Up
For
until
reference, they live in New Jersey.
Yay.
what was that? Yeah, we're in Jersey. Yeah. So we flew down. We did Daytona. He wanted me to buy a snake. He's like, "Ben, I have."
That
like,
wasn't the pitch. The pitch was if you wanted to buy a snake, I would raise it for you and we'll breed it and I'll sell the babies. I'll give you out the money. Essentially, I get a free snake from him.
Yeah.
He went a little overboard.
Not true.
Not true at all.
I wish I would have known the market a little bit better than I did, and we talk about that all the time. But I was like, "Look, like I don't know anything about these things," and people are like showing us ball pythons, and I'm like, "Look, I don't want to touch that. It's Ryan's deal." And so he had 9 snakes at the time,
Mhm.
and I had 0. So I was like, "Well, if I'm gonna get in, I gotta at least match him, right?" So I bought 5 snakes in Daytona, and we shipped them back. And 2 of them were adult females. And he's like, I was thinking we would buy a snake in like in a year or something, breed. And I'm like, I want to have babies like right now. So I'm more of a business guy. So I saw like banana ball pythons were selling for $25,000, and it's just, I was like, there's money to be made, it's whatever. And then now, after like, actually it wasn't even that long, I started to fall in love with all the animals. And yeah, we started a business. We bred our first year. That year, I bought like
That was 8 years ago.
5 more snakes. Yeah, it was like 8.5 years ago. I bought like 5 more snakes within the next like month and a half to try to catch up. And then we just were like rolling. Tried to breed our own rats.
Did you guys produce that first year?
Yeah.
So we went to it was 2012 Daytona in August, and by that March we had our first clutch.
That's wild. So how was it like just jumping full out into the fire?
Well,
A little stressful.
I didn't know anything about it. So I'm like, look, you just put these together. Like, I don't know. I'm like thinking, oh, well, if they're the right age and size, who cares, right? Like, just like dogs and cats. No, it's not like that.
I have been doing my research for many years, but I was on track to a year later, I was expecting my first parents, get the incubator together and all that stuff. To have it, sped up till, like 3 months later, having eggs on the ground was a little frustrating and challenging, but we got through it and it was successful, and it's been pretty successful ever since, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun ride.
So was there anything that you were interested right off the bat in? I mean, it seems like you guys started with ball pythons, but were there any like mutations or anything that caught your eye in particular?
So for me personally, like was probably in like 2000. I was looking at chocolate ball pythons, and they were like $20,000 at the time.
Jesus Lord.
On Fauna Classifieds, like this is way back, and I was like, man, if I had the money, that's what I would get. But I don't know. What were you interested in?
I was interested interested in anything that was like colorful and had a cool name. Like seriously, like I'm like, before then I'm a car guy. I'm a bit of a sports guy. Like I played sports. I'm like computers. I'm into anything that moves. Like I want to ride dirt bikes. I want like all that stuff. So he's like, here, look at this snake. I'm like, what do I know about snakes? You know? So I was like, ooh, a pastel. That sounds real cool. And he's like, nah.
You don't want to do the pastel now.
What? Like everybody wants a bumblebee because it sounds cool. Like
we probably made a lot of really bad decisions.
We definitely did, yeah.
Because he didn't know anything, and since I was spending his money, I felt weird about telling him what he should buy. So I tried to gently direct him in certain ways, but for the most part, he just bought whatever he felt like.
It was a good time. I mean, you know,
a learning experience for sure.
We were up to like, so we produced that first year. I think we had 3 clutches that first year, 2 or 3 clutches that first year. And yeah, I know it was only ball pythons. It's not like all the other stuff that we have today, or you know what you guys work with. But you know, our first year, and
we did super Mojave to normal. We did a firefly to a normal. Man,
hell yeah,
yeah,
they were beautiful babies.
And we were like, oh man, we're producing stuff, and I just kept buying. Like I was just buying. We probably got up to like 30 ball pythons in the first year, easy.
Yeah.
And I just kept on buying because once you get that itch, you know. But I wasn't buying the stuff that I should have been buying, you know. Really, looking back at it. But,
so when did you really like learn the market, or at least just get your footing and know what you were doing a little bit?
Did you learn?
I think I have a handle on it now, but I think that there's always things that are changing and moving, and it took me a couple years to really understand what was going on, because I had to learn genetics. I had to learn, like I had basic ideas, but I wasn't great at it. So I had to learn what things were, what morphs were. Back then, you know, you can go on World of Ball Pythons, and there was like, you know, 1,000 morphs, and you're like, oh man, let me look at all these. Now there's like 100,000 morphs, and a bunch of them are all the same. And you know, ball pythons, a lot of people, they can hate on them or whatever, but they're just fun. Like we almost got out of them for a while, or we cut down real bad. But they're just fun, like just making new things and stuff like that. But I guess it was maybe 3 years in, we said we need to start diversifying, and we bought blue-tongued skinks. And
I think the first thing we
Rhino Rat Snakes.
The pair of Rhino Rat Snakes.
Yeah, we bought a pair of Rhino. Oh, and black-tailed Cribos.
Oh, those were awesome.
We love the black-tailed Cribos, but
man, that's a sad story.
Sad. So go ahead, you can talk.
It's not a sad story, but I regret it. We found a lady at Tinley selling them, and we went in with one of our friends at the time, or still our friend, we got, what was it, 5? It was like 5 pair or something. We kept a pair of them.
We kept a pair.
And
yeah.
I raised them up for a year, and I really didn't have the right setup for them, and space was an issue. And I started going back and forth about it. And I was like, you know, let's sell them, because they really need to be in like a 4-foot cage when they're adults. You know what I mean? So I ended up selling them, and we bought them for like a
$250
real deal.
The $250 each. It was a crazy deal.
So it was like super great. And then I posted them. I'm like, let's just see, because there weren't a lot of them available. And I raised them for a year. So I said, I'll just put them for like $1,000 a piece to see what happens. And they were sold immediately. I was like, oh, I should have kept those.
We should have bought
some of the most profitable snakes you've probably ever had, man.
Yeah, they are actually.
Yeah, they're a good turnover. Yeah,
so we've been trying to pick them up ever since, and that deal's never resurfaced.
Yeah, it's hard to find the right ones in those, and we had to learn too. Like we were like, oh, these are really cool, but you know, later in life, you start seeing how to tell if the genetics or like the bloodlines are a little too close from the parents in the way the scales look and stuff like that, and you're like,
you don't want any fused scales, you want the zipper scale and all that stuff. At the time, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you learn, and we're like, man, these are really cool, and they are really cool snakes. Like we've held adults, and they're really cool. But there's two things, they get big, and if you YouTube, a yellowtail or blacktail Crebo's feeding response, you start to get hesitant. You're like,
very different from a ball.
No, they fling themselves out of the bin like insane.
That's one of our first colubrid experiences. So
yeah,
we didn't have the chops at the time to feel like we could handle an 8-foot long colubrid that was going to missile at our faces.
Yeah, and we have a handful of friends that have them or have had them, and everybody that has ever had them said the worst snake bite they've ever had was from a blacktail Crebo or a yellowtail Crebo.
Wow.
Of all the snakes, and you're like, people that get bit all the time, and they're like,
let's preface this, they're awesome, and I will buy.
They are awesome. Yeah. If there's anybody on here, message us. We'll be looking at them, but
they do have this habit of grabbing onto things and sort of gnawing on them in a sawing manner, which makes lacerations instead of puncture wounds that you're used to from pythons.
Yeah.
And the first time that happened to me, I was like, oh, that's different. I don't like that.
So, and I can't say they're real bitey, to be honest. Like, they're not like a bitey.
No, it only happened once, and I was harassing it to get a photo. So
yeah,
I'll take my responsibility in that.
When it happens, they don't really show. Like, a lot of snakes will, like, you kind of read them and stuff. Where blacktail Crebos, they're just like, oh, this is nice. Here, let me just bite you. Like, there's no, like, and they want to take off a chunk of flesh, or they want to grab you up and smash you on a rock or something, So it's like, it's a different experience, but it's fun, and we really like them. I really want to get back into them. So,
yeah, those are really awesome snakes, but definitely about as different from a ball python as you can get.
For sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a beginner species.
Yeah.
So how'd you jump from that to rhino rats? Which also is another snake out of left field that, like, yeah, how'd you even find out about them and get into them?
You just cruise in the net and you see awesome snakes. And you're like, whoa, that's really cool. So that's basically the whole story.
Yeah, well, Ryan knows a lot about a lot of animals, and I'm new to a bunch of them, and I'm learning more and more. But he's like, Ben, these rhino rat snakes are really cool, and we happened to be at a friend's house that had them. And our rhino rat snake purchases are really funny stories. But we were like, oh, let's get a pair. So we got a pair. We raised them up. We got them about adults or so. And then a friend of ours, Matthew Most, that we were talking about earlier, he's like, we were at Tinley, and Tinley's like, you stay up real late, everybody's out partying and whatever. You're going from room to room, and you're just hanging out. And so we get to bed, and I got to bed at like early for Tinley. I got to bed at like 1 a.m. or so, and I was like, oh, and Matt messaged me, and he goes, hey, and I'm like, hey, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to bed. What are you doing? And he sends me pictures of like snakes with steak, like he's cooking steak, and he has
tomahawk steaks.
Yeah, big steaks. He has like alcohol and cigars and like all this cool stuff, and he's like holding these snakes, and I'm like, dude, where are you at right now? He's like, look. Do you want to buy 5 rhino rat snakes right now for a killer deal? And I'm like, okay, sure. So it was a screaming deal. Five babies for $1,000, and I was like, all right, here's my money, take it, And in the morning, we get down to breakfast, and we were helping a friend of ours vend at Tinley, so we get down there early, and I'm like, oh, how'd you sleep? And Ryan's like, oh, it was rough, and blah blah blah, because we don't stay in the same room.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, by the way, I bought 5 rhino rat snakes last night, and he's like, I left you at 1 a.m. and it's 7 a.m. What are you talking about? But, rhino rat snakes are awesome. Also, like you're saying, very, very different from.
We had decided that we wanted to get into some rare stuff that not a lot of people had, because 1, it would be interesting for us, and 2, we thought it's a good business decision to diversify the collection and to have small batch things that you can't really get, that you pretty much have a waiting list of people trying to buy the babies, is really convenient for a business. So that's how we kind of went down that rabbit hole, and it's been a really fun ride, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, just like what you guys have, like looking at your collection when we were there, there's just a bunch of things that are really awesome. Like some of even the snakes that you're like, well, we can't really handle these ones because they're real crazy or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter because they're super rare or they're super fun to deal with. And
really cool natural history that is associated with them.
You're definitely like super knowledgeable about that stuff, and it was very impressive. So we're hoping to get there on your level at some time.
Too.
I appreciate it, but it's like those species. A lot of times they sell as soon as you put them up, but if I produced like 5 clutches of them, then that probably wouldn't happen anymore. So it's like, it's kind of a thin line. Like there's only so many people that are into it, but at the same time, like they sell immediately. Just don't overproduce them. It's a weird, weird like balancing act with the rare stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the species. I think I feel like how you market yourself is really important. When people start to know that you have like certain things, like, and they're coming to you for it, just like you guys are. It's easier to help people into their new animals. So I think the market's big.
The YouTube presence actually helps because a lot of these rare things, they don't have sort of PR campaigns about them that other species have. So people that would be interested in getting involved with them don't even know they exist. So the more we can give them access to that and show them how awesome they are as animals, how easy or hard the care may be, depending on what they're looking for. Because some people are tired of the old beginner snakes and they want something a little more advanced and challenging and something they could kind of crack the code on, you know what I mean? So,
and also dovetail off of that, I think that there's a change in how people perceive the hobbies. When we talk to other breeders and they're like, oh man, it's hard to find out information about this or that. But nowadays, personally, we want to share the information because we know that if we share it with people, then they will get excited. They can get excited because, sometimes you are hesitant to get into a species or an animal because you don't know anything about it and you can't find information about it. And that's one of our big things is, trying to get people to understand the species and to feel comfortable about it so that they can, be out there and having real fun experiences like we do, what we enjoy. So
yeah, and I think that's part of the whole thing. It's why we do this. It's why you guys are doing YouTube. It's kind of also showcasing the fact that we get to work with these animals and the fact that we get to talk to each other and hang out with each other and the community involved. I think it just gives everyone a much more immersive experience and feeling, and more people want to be part of it. And I'm glad that we can make that kind of environment, and I'm glad that I can talk to random people every week and stuff.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's a fun piece of this too, is networking and connecting with each other. We're all about it. I want to call other people right now on the phone. Get them on here. Let's just do it. It doesn't even matter. It's fun.
When did you guys first start your YouTube channel?
So we started a really long time ago, but we didn't pay any attention for quite a while. It's a very big commitment if you want to do it right.
Yeah.
And I'm preaching to the choir to you, but for everybody else that's out there, if a lot of people will go on and they'll post random stuff that they don't put the most thought or production value into. Not that we're great or anything, but
we're not.
They're not.
we don't even pay the guy that does the
bar is really low. But you got to be consistent, and you got to be a little entertaining that people want to watch. But if you don't put that serious effort into it, it's not going to go anywhere. You get frustrated. You're going to see nobody's watching, and you're going to quit, and it's going to be for nothing. So that's what we did. We put zero effort into it for 6 years, and nothing happened with it. And then we decided it was about a year ago that we were going to be serious about it and at least do one video a week that's at least 15 minutes long, and do real editing and do real keywords and do real thumbnails. And we did that for a while, and it started to grow, and people seemed to like it. So the real reason that we did it was because, number one, we wanted to be able to market ourselves, because it's hard. You can only go to so many shows to meet people, and to get your name out there, this is a great way to do it. Facebook kind of pigeonholes you.
2013.
2013.
7 years.
Facebook kind of puts you in your own little echo chamber, so you can't really get out to new people that well unless you pay them, and even then, they're probably sending your stuff to the wrong people.
Yeah.
So we thought it'd be a good way to get people, not only meet people, but get them into our collection and see what we got going on, see how we take care of our animals, see our passion for the animals, explain to them all the details that they may want to ask, but they don't have that resource for people to reach out to. And, that was sort of the goal of it all. And it's going pretty well, I think.
Yeah, we kind of got back like real serious. It was like almost a year we're coming up on.
It's a year. And then, probably it was one video a week. And then about 4 months in, we said, maybe we should do 2. That was a big step because that 2 videos a week is a lot of work.
Yeah,
to be honest, but
it's more than you think, and it really changes how you do things. Like you're saying, you're going to be going on a trip. Let's video stuff. We're like, we need to go on trips just to video. Like when we went to Tinley last year or in October, we tried to get 5 videos out of that trip. So we always go up a couple days early, and we'll film at different places. We did Brian Barczyk's, then we did Forrest Fanning's and Matthew Most, and then we went to Tinley. And the whole time we're filming, like Ryan says it's exhausting. For me, I mean it is, but I can turn on and like just be on for like nonstop.
He's more of a social butterfly than I am.
Not a little bit. So,
yeah, you have really covered a lot of ground as far as the places that you've been and the collections that you've seen.
I wanted to keep it interesting because a lot of people do a lot of the same stuff over and over again. You'll see reptile YouTubers and they'll go, it almost seems like they're following the same pattern where we're going to this collection, we're going to this collection, and then 2 weeks later, the next guy's going to the same collection. We're trying to go off the beaten path to like all these, and especially to highlight like some of the rare stuff or places that have never been filmed before that nobody's even reached out to. So
yeah,
and for us, it's interesting to do that because we get to meet great people and see awesome animals, but also I think people online like it too. So
yeah, and I think seeing just anybody's collection too, because for us, it's not just, oh man, you have like some real awesome, real crazy rare animal. It's more like I want to connect with people. Like I want to connect with this guy because he's really passionate about what he does. Like you guys are real passionate about what you do, and we're like, yeah, I want to get involved. I want to see so even if it's small collections, we have a friend who he has like 6 snakes, and I videoed over there like twice. Those videos don't get a ton of views, but there are. Yeah, thanks, Matt Cleaver. We try to make them in like all of our videos.
MattCleaver.com.
Not really.
And I know that I told you guys this, but for everyone, I mean, go check out that Matthew Most video. I mean, that is the most content that you're ever going to see on old world rat snakes and different colubrids. I mean, the amount of information, and it's like, it's almost an hour, right? I mean, there's so much information in that video.
And we're gonna be going back there. We've we have a good relationship with Matt, and we're friends before we are buying animals, to be honest. And we've just we purchased a lot of animals from him. We've got a lot of advice from him, and now we're doing breeding projects together. And so we have a plan to go back, to fly back out to his house and do like real specific care videos on each species that he has. And he's like one of the top guys in the country on these old world rat snakes.
Probably top 5, yeah. Him, and those guys are all a pretty close group that are working on these really rare projects.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that it was important, like not only did we met him through looking for rare colubrids, but one of the reasons why we kind of focused on getting his collection out there is for the longest time when I was trying to research before I got into these rare colubrids, I could not find any information out there. It was very sporadic. You would look up a species on YouTube and it would be a 30-second video with no audio of a snake eating a rat. You know what I mean? It was almost zero educational value whatsoever. I'm like, this information needs to get out there because these things aren't going to gain interest from people that are going to buy them not know what they're doing with them, and they die. You know what I mean? So it was very important for me personally to get that information out there, and that's one of the goals with the actually doing his collection and some of the other rare species that we highlight in our YouTube videos, because they're awesome animals, but there's not a lot you can do when you're going to an importer and getting a wild caught and you can't establish it. You have no idea what the care conditions are. You have no idea where it came from or how to breed it or anything.
And I think there's a lot of snakes out there that are like not known to the public how difficult they are to keep. We talk about all the time, like we see sunbeam snakes at almost every show. And
it's always
and it's like, I understand why they're there, because they look like rainbows. And who doesn't love rainbows, right? But every time I'm like, oh, you're like 12. Please, you're going to kill it. You're going to kill it.
Super advanced care for those.
Yeah. They are tricky.
And it's like,
but then on the flip side, though, there's like the old world stuff that's actually really easy to keep.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I think highlighting that is just as important, because I mean, I can have a rare rat snake that is so incredibly easier to keep than a ball python, and people don't even know about it.
Yeah. Agreed. And there's like some of the fears you can talk about, that you have, like our Japanese forest rats, the conspics. They don't have to eat for the first year.
Yeah, they have one born and
not eat for a year.
They come out of their first formation is common. People freak out and start trying to force feed them, and the stress of that kills them. But they don't know because the information is just not out there.
Yeah. So like, when we first got into them, Matt, we got him from Matt, and he's like, oh man, all right, don't worry if they don't eat. Do this, do that, and we were like nervous, but they worked out really well, and it was awesome. And we were like, dude, you gotta let us come video. He's like, nobody's ever videoed here, and he's a little nervous and stuff like that, and a lot of people are, but he let us come in and do it, and it's kind of our gig. I feel like videoing people's places that they've never done before. We have a video posting today that of Northern Gecko, and he's never had anybody video his collection either, and he has probably one of the more extensive gecko collections, definitely in Canada, maybe,
probably
around
more than that.
Yeah. He has unbelievable animals and super diverse, super awesome animals. And you're like, look, we're just a couple nice guys from Jersey trying to hang out. That's it. We're not looking to like do anything crazy.
We don't even own a single gecko.
We don't yet.
Yet. So.
Well, I mean, you got skinks, so you're getting there.
Yeah, we do want a handful, but the problem is when we go into something like that, we're like, well, you can't just get like a common, genetic or locale. You got to get
$15,000-$20,000 to dump in the lychees or something.
I don't want to spend that much, but I was thinking maybe like 6.
No, your lesson yet. Can't limp in the projects.
So I mean, that's something that's getting super popular, though, right? Like lychees and cressids are obviously have been here for a while, but
I think they're making
money behind them.
Yeah, I think the cressids are gonna come back, as well as saying.
Yeah, and I mean, they're cressids are probably like one of the most perfect first pet reptiles.
Oh yeah.
I know that's probably not what you guys go for, but we usually, we sell to first-time pet owners with the corn snakes and rats.
Oh, wait, I'll take a half a dozen lily whites right now.
Yeah, it's not that we don't do that, like we do. It's just we think about a little bit of our space. Like some of the animals that we have just take up space, and to keep them properly for what we got, and so it's hard for us to have.
We're operating most of the business out of my spare bedroom at my house at the moment.
So and now this.
And now the family room is now not the family room.
You see all the
anymore.
skink racks that we're just finishing up putting the heat tape on and stuff.
So this is just part of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is overflow. This isn't the main collection.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we gotta, there is a business side to it. So we have to kind of weigh what we want to do versus
what we have to do.
What's financially responsible, but for the most part, I mean, it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah, and what's like the proper balance? I mean, I think everyone's trying to find that balance, but how do you maintain animals to the highest degree that you feel comfortable while maintaining a whole, numbers of them?
Yeah, it makes it tough too, because there's a lot of animals that are cool, but they may only be like, corn snakes are awesome, but a lot of them are only like $15, $20, $30 a piece. It's hard to have a collection of 200 of those when that's probably, I mean, I guess it'll pay the electric and food bill, but you're not going to get anything else much out of it unless you get to the real high end of corn snakes.
Yeah.
The palmettos are pretty cool, but
yeah, you guys have a bunch of really high end corn snakes.
Not really, though. If we needed to make a business out of it, we would need 10,000 of them.
That's got to be.
That's the deal.
It's a passion project at that point, because you got to either be able to produce the volume to get the money out of it, or you're passionate about it and it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah, there's with a lot of animals and a lot of things, and when we talked with Forrest Fanning, even when you're breeding rats, which like if you want to make money in this hobby, breed food. That's where your money's at, right? So when you start looking at breeding, even if it's rats or breeding, a lower dollar animal, you really need to have the volume. But then there's a balance where it doesn't scale well. Like at some point, it's your overhead starts to become getting crazy, and we try to take that into account with what we have, because we could buy, even with ball pythons, we could buy like 20 pied ball pythons and make pieds and sell every one of them all day long, no problem. But we are like, yeah, we want to do that, but we also have all these passions for the other stuff, and you got to make that decision to say, well, I can sell a $200 or $300 snake all day, or sell a few snakes that are a couple $1,000s. And if I had the space, I would do a little bit more of that, just because it's a more consistent income. But when you have the space, like you're saying, like you just got to find that balance, the right deal.
Yeah, I feel like there's some people, the people who do it on a good level, like the long-term breeders who breed and sell wholesale, and that's their living.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you got to accept the fact that it's going to be, for us, I mean, at least it would be boring as hell. You'd have to produce the same thing over and over again, I'm sure.
Yeah. There's the guy from Rodent Pro, if I can, I don't know if I just want to say that.
Why are you name dropping?
I don't mean to name drop. So
a
guy that we don't want to talk his name.
No. So people that we know, and it's not just him, but also a bunch of other animal breeders that they come down to the idea where it's the cost of living, for the animal, each individual animal, and so the value of that animal is really just intrinsic to how passionate or rare or whatever people find it to be. But in reality, it doesn't cost any different from having a $10,000 ball python to having a $5 ball python. It's the exact same cost to keep them. And so you learn a lot from talking to guys that have really done, real big breeding. You learn a lot from saying, all right, there is balances like we're talking, but also to better understand how to,
the bottom line of care, what you got to put into materials and staff and time, it equals a number. And as long as you can get that number for that snake, it doesn't matter what you sell it for.
Right. And so, but to your point, like we don't want to get to that point where like it's just a number, it's just a bin, and you're producing the same thing over and over again, like you're saying. But also at the end of the day, you're like, well, I want to have a handful of animals that I can sell on a regular, consistent basis, so that I can go out and buy the Boleens pythons that we want to get, and
we'll probably never get a clutch out of them.
Yeah, we'll do it one day. We'll get one. But
so, do you want to do this full time eventually?
This podcast? I didn't know you guys were paying us.
I thought you said 2 hours.
I thought it was like full time is like.
I'll give you the AdSense. AdSense is in the mail.
Yeah,
$1.20.
Yeah, I could do. We could buy some ramen. It'll be great. It would be great. I think it's fun. We enjoy it.
That's my goal, but I don't know how realistic it is.
Right. It's tough, There's some really big breeders that do well, you know, doing this. And there's a lot of hobbyists that are, when they switch over, it's tough. And you know, like, is that what you want to do? Like, we both have jobs outside that, you know, really pay the bills and are consistent. And, you know,
I'm not trying to be negative at all, but I've seen how most career breeders end up, and it's usually like not on an island somewhere, retired in Florida or something like that. I don't know anyone who's
Dan Maleri.
Who, yeah, I don't know many people. It has to be like the you got to be like top 5%. I guess just like anything else. Successful. You got to be pretty high up as far as like the top. Someone who does something consistently at a really high level for a really long time.
Agreed. You're absolutely right.
And you have to actually know a little bit about business, because a lot of people think they're just going to sell themselves, and it doesn't really work that way.
And all the successful people that I've talked to, they actually know their numbers, meaning like because we go willy-nilly, whatever. Snakes, you know, aren't about the money, but at the same time, the only successful people I know who do it, they really know all the numbers and stuff like that. And I think that's super important. And I think that's probably like the one thing that people kind of misguide other people on, is the fact that you need to know your business.
Yeah, there's a lot about marketing yourself and marketing the animals that gets kind of left behind in the dream that gets sold. And really, I mean, it's very hard with all the competition that is out there in any of the markets to kind of rise above and get that sale. So, yeah, please take that into consideration when you're formulating your business plans.
So, different subject, but what is y'all's most recent purchase?
We bought some today.
Okay.
So today we get some every day.
Do you want us to go grab it? Is that what you're saying?
Go grab it.
Go for it.
We'll go grab it.
If that's a positive experience for you, as long as
it is.
Too crazy.
A chocolate highway clown.
Nope, not a ball python.
Something ball python. I'm just speaking up.
Oh, so I know what it is.
So here's one of them. Let's see if I can get it in frame.
Oh, did I see that on Instagram today?
Yeah, you probably did.
I was about to say, I remember liking.
This is a het aberrant flower rat snake from Mellendorfi that we got today. One of a pair. My spatial recognition here is lacking.
Did someone we have on the podcast talk about finding these?
No. You may be going.
I feel like I
We found these.
I found these at FedEx today.
Deep in the wilds of FedEx.
Can we talk about maybe the genetics behind that animal?
We can try.
We can try.
I don't know if it's classified info. I'm just curious.
It's not classified info at all. So I can call Matthew Most right now.
You keep on threatening me with that. You can go for it.
So at the time of this recording, it is presumed to be a recessive trait. These were just hatched out with from a het to het, I believe it was the pairing. No, it was a visual to het, and there were some visual aberrants in it and some hets. So the assumption is that the pair we have are het aberrant, and hopefully we'll help prove that out in 3 years or whenever they mature.
Yep. It's part of the breeding projects that we're doing with Matthew Most. You know, he gives us basically he'll message us and say, hey, so I want to sell you these animals. Send me money and I'll send these over to you. And we're like, oh, done. Like every time. I don't mean to, but
I can't refuse the guy.
Yeah. I mean, he does give us a good deal, and he's a good friend, and he has given us a couple snakes to like separate the collection. But I really, when we went to his house, I saw adults of those, and I was like, the moles are awesome. Like they're just
big
fun.
Snake, right? How big are they?
It's like 7 foot.
7, 8 feet, I think, at an adult.
But they're not real fat. Like they're colubrid size. So it's manageable, and they have a pretty bad rap of being bitey. So
they can be.
Kind of early on in our in our career, we were at Hamburg Reptile Show, and a guy had one, and Ryan's like, yeah, hold that, Ben. And I was like, okay.
So it was an adult. It probably was all 6.5 feet or something, maybe 7 foot.
It was kind of small for an adult, oddly enough. Now thinking about it, But I held it, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I don't know anything about these. But then we held the ones from Matt, and we're like, I thought they're awesome. Their heads get super bright red. Their bodies stay pretty green. They get a little greener than what they are. They're just real cool. So, real excited.
Yeah, and I believe that's a joint pairing between Matthew Mose and Larry Keller, right?
Yep. Yes,
absolutely.
You're right on target.
And Larry Keller was actually the first one to breed Mullendorfi when they first came into the United States. So Larry's an old school guy, and he's bred a lot of animals, and that's one of them. He was the first one to produce them, which is crazy.
Yeah, we're hoping to do a video with him soon.
Yeah,
that's interesting. No one's ever seen that.
Yeah, we're going after the ungettable.
Yeah, that's our deal. Like I was saying, one of the only reason Ryan hired me on was, aside from my good looks, is my networking ability. So it actually was really a conversation in a hot tub that was like way too late.
Whoa.
At Daytona, we're like, Ryan's like, look, I'll let you in on this little business. We can have it. I'll make you an offer that you can't refuse. And I'm all like, dude, I'm in. And he's like, whoa.
I was like, I don't like really talking to people. You talk too much. This is perfect. And then I just point at people. I'm like, make him our friend. And he just goes.
That's true. I really do that. Even when he's like, make him your friend, and it's like some person on a plane, and I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? I like your face. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I get real confused on how to give compliments.
That was funny. The last time we were on a plane together, we went to Tinley with a group of other people that we brought along, and it was their first Tinley experience. And by the end of the plane ride, the bet was whoever can get the stewardesses to pose in a picture with them is the winner.
It's turned into that, actually. It started with who can get a picture with the person sitting next to you. I was like, bang, right away. And then
by the end of it, there was like 3 stewardesses. They were all hugging. It was like real weird. Like, I don't know what's going on. But
it wasn't just me.
Like, look, I gotta win the bet.
It was Kai from Lucas Landon Royals. He's one of our friends that he's on our videos, from randomly, but he went to Tinley with us. He was on our flight, and he was like,
and Hiram.
Yeah, but they weren't on the same flight. So, yeah, they're on the way there. It's funny, we bring people along to all trips whenever we go to places.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, well, it's definitely like a large part of this, but how do you, as someone at home right now who's not necessarily that keen on talking to people, but they're into snakes, which is honestly 90% of us. How do you dip your toe in the water to get involved?
Involved with people?
Yeah, or just the community in general.
So giving advice? Really? I mean,
I got it. You ready?
Yeah.
So you like snakes, right? You like to talk about them? So do I. So just talk to somebody about snakes, and you'll find yourself talking for an hour and a half, and you'll be like, wow, that's the most I've talked in 6 months.
It's
the truest thing.
One of the things we do, and we've invited you guys, and hopefully you guys can come to the next one, but we do this dinner kind of quarterly, and we just get people together that are into reptiles, right? And these guys a lot of times are like, I don't talk to anybody, and we'll talk to their wives or their girlfriends, sometimes there's girls that come too, but a lot of times it's guys. But and they're like, yeah, they don't talk. They're real to themselves. But then when they're in our group talking about something they're passionate about, like reptiles, it's just it's just water spilling over out of the cup. So one of my, I guess I would have a couple pieces of advice, to get people to dip their toe in, is just try to connect with one person. It doesn't have to be anybody famous. It doesn't have to be anybody big in the hobby. Just connect with one person that you guys can really buddy up and talk reptiles. So you guys can kind of grow together. And I would say, and I know that people don't like doing this, but do it to be with somebody that you can physically be in contact with, that you can go to lunch together or to be face to face. when you're in that situation, just the psychology about it, it breaks down so many more barriers and it makes you more comfortable. And you know, Ryan's
counterintuitively.
It is counterintuitive, but once you build that bond, it's easier to connect with other small groups and then become bigger groups. Now, me, I don't have any problem talking in front of thousands of people. Like, it just happens for me, so I can do it. But the more you get into it, when we first started, Ryan's like, I don't like people. I don't want to talk to people. Now look at him.
I'm a little reclusive. I like to stay to myself, but you know, once you get around people that love the same thing that you love, and you're like, you have all that like passion bottled up in you because you haven't been able to talk to anybody about what you're into because it's so weird, like reptiles. Like it just like starts spewing out, and you're like, holy crap, this is real easy.
Yeah, so just flash my number there and say, call Ben, and he'll give you advice.
856-649-3149, anytime day or night.
I feel like that's his actual number.
It is 100% his number.
You guys can play that back.
He gives it out to everybody.
Grabbing it.
I can't say that I really like that everybody has my number, but it's not like a big deal to me.
Love it.
But you get like real random phone calls.
See? It's the real number.
Higher.
Higher.
What's the QR code? Where does it go? Does it go to your website or something?
YouTube.
Sorry, YouTube. I just made those. I just remade business cards. Hey, do you guys want some business cards that I didn't like? So I ordered like 500, and when I got them, I was like, oh, these don't look the way I wanted them to. So we went to the Oaks Reptile Show. I went to the Oaks Reptile Show on this past Saturday, and I'm just like tossing them on tables, like just giving out the old card.
I feel like we missed. That's the only Oaks that we haven't vended in like a year and a half.
Really?
And everyone that we know went to this one.
It was good. It was decent. We videoed it. That video will come out in a little while, but
You videoed it.
I videoed it. Ryan stayed home.
I was busy taking care of the collection that day. But.
Excuses.
I brought my girl Nancy with me, so she filmed. So everything is. She's not terribly tall. So everything's like from a lower point of view, but she did a good job still.
So, I mean, both of you guys have significant others. How do they feel about it? And beards as well.
We do have beards. That happen to be our significant others.
Cut that. All right, so
right? What are we doing?
So significant others, yeah. So Ryan's wife, you want to talk about her, and I'll talk about my girlfriend instead of vice versa.
Sure. All right, so I had a pet snake when I met my wife, so it was part of the deal. She married me, and now I have 200.
She doesn't like almost any of the insects, though. She's really against them.
Yeah, she is not happy about the tarantulas.
Yeah,
but she's coming around.
I almost bought. Somebody at Oaks had a coconut crab. Almost bought it.
Goodness.
That would have been so cool to bring.
Massive coconut crab. I wish you'd have bought it. I would have gave you the money back. This is amazing.
What were they, like $8, or how much is the coconut crab?
500, yeah.
Wait.
What?
I need to look this up.
Okay, yeah,
Look up the coconut crab.
Massive hermit crabs that are size of like a
so they're like
volleyball.
2.5 feet long. They climb coconut trees and pull coconuts off. They're an arboreal crab.
They're from Indo, right?
Huh?
Are they from Indo?
Probably.
I'm not positive.
Also, I thought I saw a Dan Maliri video where they found some coconut crabs.
But they'll like lay on their back and take in a coconut in their leg and smash it on. Yeah, look at that one on the trash can.
Is that real?
It is totally real. So
dude, how do you keep it?
It's just like a hermit crab, oddly enough.
I would have figured it out.
You know what they eat? Coconut. So you get like.
There's one eating a large bird.
Yeah. They're scavengers. They'll eat shrimp and fish and stuff like that.
Apparently,
family pet.
They will snap your. That's a weird one. They'll snap your finger out though. So they have a really strong claws, so you got to be careful. And they're not like terribly nice.
I've never seen one for sale before. It was the first time ever. I was like, you didn't buy it? You should have bought it.
It was a small one. Like it was probably about like a half a foot long or so, maybe almost a foot. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. And the guy's like, yeah, it gets 2.5, 3 feet long. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't even know where we would keep it. He's like, it just has to be humid like a hermit crab, and you feed it coconut shaving. I'm like, wow, you're really trying to sell this one, but
no, you're not gonna want that.
Look at think about what Ryan would say if I brought that home. Like,
That's
hey man, I
different.
need you to build an 8 foot by 8 foot enclosure for this coconut crab that's going to climb your trees.
Done.
It's like one of those things you're like, this would be a funny joke for like a minute.
Yeah, and then what do you do with it?
Right.
You eat it, obviously.
No.
That would be your most expensive meal you've ever eaten. $500.
I'm a pretty big guy. I don't know.
It would be
spend some money on food.
It would be pretty expensive. I would agree. It wouldn't be like we can keep name dropping. Robin Markland. Let's go do some sushi. He has an expensive sushi taste. He's the guy that what's his new? He has a new company.
By the way, I wouldn't eat it. It'd be my best friend. Like that crab is.
Yeah.
I understand. I got it.
Robin Markland used to own Pro Exotics. Do you guys remember them? So
I'm sure they've never heard of Pro Exotics.
Yeah, and then he was involved with Ship Your Reptiles, and now he's starting a new company actually. And I don't know if he released it to the public yet, so I won't say. But so yeah, keep looking out for him. But he's a really cool guy, and he eats really awesome food. I don't know how I started talking to him. I don't know how we started talking about him. I can call him right now too. Let's go.
We're joking around about eating a coconut crab.
Yeah.
You had an opportunity to give him some free advertising.
Yeah.
Is it Reptile Company?
Yes.
It will be in sorts, I believe.
And that's someone, I mean, back in the day, Pro Exotics used to crank out some old world rat snake.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man.
I think most of the ones in the hobby were established by them, weren't they? Didn't they bring in most of the imports at the time?
From my understanding, I mean, and also I think they didn't have. I don't think they cared if they crossed them.
Yes, they were doing some experiments.
Yeah. So I think like their methodology was like hybrid vigor, and they have like it's hard to kind of find something that you can say is pure or
one of the reasons we got ours from Matthew Moses because he has locality data on most of the ones that he has, so he knows exactly where they came from in the wild when he imported them. So that was really important to us because we wanted to make sure that we had a really pure bloodline and knew exactly what we were dealing with. Not that there's anything wrong with crossing them. I mean, they make really cool things like the vanishing patterns and all this other stuff, but I think a good place to start is keeping, especially when you have rare species like that, you want to make sure that you keep lineage documentation of at least a portion of the population.
And I mean, to the degree that you know of, I suppose. And I mean, it's hard to know for sure, especially, I mean, I didn't even know that there were so many different localities of like Mandarin rat snakes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. It's a crazy world.
What's Matt on? Because he can rattle off this crap lake off the top of his head.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh wait, did you have a question? Because I was switching. I was switching to skinks.
Oh, skinks. That's like your least favorite animal.
I know, but someone in the chat just brought something up.
I know
that I want to talk about.
Least favorite?
Oh wait, we don't see the chat. Oh,
live comments. Come on, click the tab. Where you at?
Oh my goodness, we haven't been talking at all to them.
No. I mean, for most guests, it's really hard for them to read the chat and talk to us. So it's actually probably better that you didn't.
Game on.
Joe doesn't even do it.
Game on work. Hi, how's it going?
If you see me leaning over, like it's mainly because I've been answering in the chat. But
and usually they're not even talking about what we're talking about.
Yeah,
they're like talking amongst themselves anyway.
Tom too knows what I'm talking about. Walking a crab on a leash, my man.
So what kind of skinks are you guys working with?
So we have northern blue tongues. So they are Australian skinks. We don't have any Indonesian skinks, so only Australians. So northern, and most of those are line bred. There's not a lot of genetically passed on traits in northerns other than polymorphism. So you can get different variations in color with it, which we're trying to work with, but it's not like a normal, recessive or co-dominant trait. And then we also do eastern blue tongues, and we do have a morph of that, which is a hypermelanistic. There's not a lot of those in the United States. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Jet black. Some of them have like a red or orange fire belly on them, and we're trying to breed those out. But mainly,
trying to get out the cool belly.
What's that?
Did you say you're trying to breed out the fire belly?
No, we're trying to breed them. Period.
Oh. Okay, I thought you said you're trying to breed it out of them.
No, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, they're a great animal. It's just Easterns are tricky to breed sometimes, and especially the morphs here in the United States.
Yeah, Easterns you have to get cooled down really cold, like scary cold for reptiles. So when you're talking about dropping a skink down into like the high 40s, like it's a very uncomfortable thing.
Yeah, especially when you're keeping ball pythons, you're like, oh, 92 hotspot all the time. You know what I mean? Like there's temperature drop a little bit, but you're like, oh yeah, And they're like, oh, we're gonna keep them at 80 or 90 degrees, these skinks, and then we're gonna drop them to 45. Like what?
A big change.
We're in South Jersey, close to Atlantic City, and yes, game on, Aaron.
Majority of people who have skinks or have
Aaron
tongues.
Call has been thrown.
Oh man.
You say majority of people who work with skinks have blue tongues? I mean, have
Indo animals.
Have northern blue tongues. I feel like I hear. Or what's the most common skink that people work with?
Why are you asking me?
I don't know. They were talking.
Most people have Indonesian skinks because they're still imported from Indonesia, because Australia has banned import since the 70s, import and export of all animals. So they're pretty rare compared to Indonesian stuff that can come in wild caught or captive born, or not captive born, captive hatched. But I think I don't think very many people are actually producing Indonesian skinks right now. They have really weird requirements for humidity and stuff, and they haven't really dialed it in that well.
Yeah, people do produce them, but not at the level that they should, and if at all. They are also a tricky skink to reproduce. Northerns are easier, but there's a bunch of other skinks that people breed and that we think are really cool as well. Like pink tongues and Agurnia, and there's a bunch of different. I mean, you can go deep into skinks, and there's a handful of Australian stuff that's out there that have trouble breeding a bit as well, because obviously over here, but people are really making efforts lately. Who was I just talking to the other day? Oh, Ryan's gonna go get one, I guess, or I don't know what he's doing.
He's gonna do whatever I feel like.
He's gonna do whatever he feels like.
Take a pee, but we can go get one.
No, he's not actually going to pee. I don't know where he went. What was I gonna say? Randy Mobia, he has westerns and shinglebacks and northerns and easterns, and very few people are working with westerns and the Australian species, and those are like there's a guy down in Florida that produced a bunch, and he sold his collection out because he wanted to do something different, and he's like OG at it. And we talked to him about it. He goes, we just put them in a container and put them in the refrigerator to put them in brumation. And it's like, so they're getting down into the 30s, the high 20s, low 30s for westerns. And it's just, I can't put, a $8,000, $6,000 skink or animal in the refrigerator. Like seems crazy to me. So yeah, this is a full melanistic or hypermelanistic eastern blue tongue skink.
How old is that?
2.5. A little over 2 years.
How long does it take for them to get to sexual maturity?
8 months.
Yeah, they can do it in like 8-10 months, but a lot of people say it's better to wait like a year or two.
Even females?
Yeah.
Wow.
We can.
Yeah, in the wild, they will produce in 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard to reproduce in captivity?
I think there's not a ton of information about it outside of Australia. So people are kind of guessing, and they don't want to get them as cold as they need to get to, or they got the humidity a little off, or there's a really short window to introduce your males into the females, and then the males will shut down. So there's a whole lot of things that the Australians have had a lot of time to figure out, and we're just sort of figuring out right now.
Yeah, the environment's tough to really mimic. I think that we try to, like, if the environment's supposed to be like, all right, it needs to go like up and down, and there's like periods where there's flux and stuff like that. We try to make things like a box, like we're like, all right, we're going to go into brumation, and then we're going to stay here, and then we're going to come out, and this is what we're going to do. And we try to make it real systematic and things like that. And I think that when you watch the temperatures in Australia, where these guys are from, and looking at what they actually do, we don't mimic them in the United States as well as they do in nature. And I think it's tough, and we're trying to learn that. We're trying to do different things, like introduce them earlier, or don't feed them before you introduce them, or just like all different sorts of weird things that you're just trying to figure out. Whereas in Australia, they're just putting them in a big pit, and they're leaving them outside with an enclosure so that if it gets too cold, they can go in there. If it gets too warm, they can come out. And that's it. It's like they live there, so it's hard for us to do that.
And honestly, in the United States, there's not a lot of Easterns. So like the percentage of people here that are experimenting with this whole thing is really low. Like, we're pretty new into the skink game period. We've been doing Northerns for about 5 years, Easterns for 4 or 3 years, something like that. And we, like, last year, we produced the most Easterns in the United States.
Whoa.
That's not the sort of thing that we should be able to do.
Almost.
Like, if on the scale of skink breeders in the United States, we're nobodies.
And we got, and
that's
really,
how rare they are.
It's really, we got lucky. Like, it's not like
we did get lucky. I'm not trying to say it's anything like good about us. I'm just saying, like,
it's tough to do. Yeah,
talking about percentages. There's no way such a small time breeder like us would be able to produce more than anybody else in the United States. And that's how little. That's a possibility that we did that. We're not 100% sure, but from everybody that we talked to, we're pretty plugged into the people that have them in the United States. So. I mean, there are a lot of people that are on the sly though, but
it's such an interesting animal. Like, I'm sorry.
Now you starting to like them?
No.
Oh, come on.
Yo.
It looks like
I don't think Australia will ever lift the ban.
It looks like a breathing tire.
You should look up land mullets.
Yeah, land mullets.
Look up land mullets. So those came to the United States a couple times, but they didn't breed well as well. It's also a large black Australian skink. Super cool. But if you want to see a funny looking,
okay, this is gonna sound dumb, and I'm sure that, but like, what do they look like fat? Can they get fat? I'm assuming
they're pretty fat. They're bigger than this guy here. They're just so
it's like a giant hypermelanistic skink.
Yeah, because yours is so slender.
Well, I mean, Easterns are on the smaller side of Australian skinks. So, like, our Northerns are really big. That one's just about full grown. I mean, they might get a little bit bigger, but it's an adult, and it's healthy, and it's eating, So it does look a bit slender, but compared to a land mullet.
Right. The land mullets were thick. But that's such an interesting animal.
Erica, there are people that sell them in Canada, by the way. Northern Gecko is breeding them, but Don Patterson is like a big skink guy in Canada. Should I skip mentioning those things, or should I just be typing?
Yeah. It's up to you. So are some of their bellies like super red? Because that one was kind of like muted. Are some of them super red, or
they can be? So that there are different variations. That one is it kind of gets a little bit more red than that, but that's about what it's at. There's Northerns that are really red, and there's just different variations. Do you like the red belly?
I like any red.
Are the Easterns the ones that they can be differentiated by like that stripe through the eye on the wild type?
So there are eye banded, they're called, the Easterns, some of them. So yeah, kind of the locality of where they're from. They can have eye bands, but also there's some Easterns that don't have eye bands, and depending on where they're from. But yeah, that's one way that you can tell an Eastern over a Northern or anything. The Westerns have eye bands too, really.
Yeah, it's really a color variation.
Yeah, and the shape of the animal a little bit too.
Game of Morphs. Oh, Jinx.
Right.
You owe me a soda. Thanks.
Good reference. Oh, thoughts on getting the Peters banded breeding in captivity?
Peters banded.
No idea.
Yeah, we haven't heard of them being unlocked yet on that. I mean, I'm sure it'll come down to food and environment, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
the only variables there possibly could be is what it's going to come down to. So just try all of them.
it's tough. There are websites that you can track the day by day temperatures and weather in the areas where they're from. And actually, I was thinking about it, seeing if we can make a variation of what the temperatures are that we have, and if it's cloudy that day, things like that. It's a difficult thing to do, but I think that it could be done maybe.
But you also have to think of microclimates. I mean, like, just because the weather is that doesn't mean that in the leaf litter, they're seeing the same changes going on.
Right.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a weather station with probes at each level of the micro habitat in Australia where they're at.
Now you're thinking.
We're gonna plug it into Arduino. We're gonna have it take that information and put it into our herf stat so it can control the humidity and temperature and daylight cycle. It's real easy.
Yeah, so simple. Why isn't everyone doing it?
I know, really. A little effort, guys. Come on.
Can we talk a little bit about the the racks behind you, the stuff that you've built for the skinks?
Absolutely.
So if you're handy, it's a good deal. If you're not, buy it. Because we took a long time to make them, but it turned out. So yeah.
We started this project
in the
8
summer.
months ago. This is really bad. We're trying to do it like between doing YouTube, taking care of our animals, which is
going on trips,
going on trips, working, family life. We thought, hey, we can knock it out in a couple weeks. It took 8 months, and they're not painted. I thought they were going to be painted white. But
yeah, we started to do that, and then we realized, painting 35 bins and 7 racks and stuff, you're like, it's kind of a lot. You couldn't do it with like rollers or anything. You have to do it with spraying, and it's a lot.
But all that aside, we were keeping our skinks in regular rack systems like you would keep a ball python in, because they can do well in like a CB70 or smaller if they're babies, as long as you're supplementing them because they're not getting UVB. So you're making sure they're getting vitamins and calcium and a really varied diet. But we wanted to take our care up a notch and offer them UVB basking, and we couldn't do that in our rack systems. So
in that rack system,
in any rack system that I know that's commercially available. So
yeah,
we kind of took this idea we first saw it from Ty Park, and also what's the guy from Reptile Mountain?
TC Houston, from the ground up alum.
Yeah. It was on my tip of my tongue.
They're all TC. We got to catch up with him, by the way.
Yeah.
But they have this style rack, a little bit different than what we went with. We made some adjustments because we wanted belly heat instead of. We need to maximize our space, like we were talking about before. Like there's, the basking lamps is great, but I can fit more animals in with a less of a heat signature if I don't have heat bulbs in there. So I wanted belly heat so we could do 5 high instead of 3 high or 4 high. Plus those bulbs burn out constantly, so that would be another expense that I didn't think was necessary. We didn't think was necessary.
We didn't. I helped plan it.
He helped. There's a whole video on him sketching it out. It's really funny.
Sure. So
that was the goal. I wanted to be able to have UVB in a rack for the skinks. I wanted to also be able to offer them 2 to 3 inches of substrate because they love to burrow if they have the opportunity. So it had to be a deep tub, and those tubs are 9.5 inches deep. That's composed of like the ones you would use, like the big cement tubs, are more like 6.5 inches, which would keep the animal about 3 inches away from the basking light, which is not good. I needed more space, so that's what we went with. Those are from Ace Hardware. Check them out. Took me a long time to find those tubs. I'm serious. Like, if you're looking for this solution, Ace Hardware, that's where they're at.
And are they grooved on the inside as they are on the outside?
They are, and I don't like that, but I think it's because the tub is so big that it needs that rigidity in it, where it will flex and bend. So, unfortunately, yes, there are ridges.
But it comes with the territory, pretty much.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything else unless I wanted to spend like $60 a tub, which was outside of the budget.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Ryan asked, now, do they do moisture cycles for their skinks like a rainy, dry season?
We do incorporate that, but it's not
like a cycle.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be as random as it is in nature. Like, you know, we go in there and like a couple times a month we'll mist it down.
Like really, really mist it down. We do mist it down weekly, but not like a full like drench. And so we'll do the drench like a couple times a month.
When we say drench, there's no standing water.
Yeah,
so
not like a drench.
Don't get crazy, but just a little heavier than you normally would. Then you let the substrate dry completely out, like you went through a rain cycle, and
right.
But that's not really regimented. That's just like, it looks a little dry in there. It's been a while. Sure, let's spray some water in there.
Yeah, we do on a regular basis check to make sure there's enough humidity, and especially with the rack systems that we have, you know, there's a lot of ventilation, so the substrate can dry out kind of quickly. So if it seemed a little too dry, then we mist it down, which ends up in the summertime. We end up doing it, and even so there's tricks about the winter, but in the summertime, we make sure it's a couple times a week, probably, to give it a little mist, not a lot.
We keep them at like 40-45% humidity normally, and then it will bump up to like 65 when we do the quote soak down. Yeah. So it's not crazy, but it's enough to let them know that, hey, something's going on with the weather.
We're not typing stuff, should we? I see you guys answering.
No. We're gonna kind of switch directions here, just because Dennis Griffey asked in the chat, what is everyone's opinion of what they would pair with a yellow belly pied female in order to jumpstart a breeding program? Bum, bum, bum.
The question is, what's the goal?
Yeah, what are you looking to do? There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. How about this? How much money do you have to spend on
the most expensive pied?
Yeah.
If you're breeding to sell, I got options. If you're breeding to keep, I got options. It depends on the goal.
So I'm gonna take words out of Ryan's mouth. Probably something with lavender in it is like that's a good start. I would do something different.
No, go ahead. Do something different.
There's some rare stuff out there, that rare genes. So if you see things that are like something cool that you want to incorporate, but it really depends on what your budget is, because if you're looking to get a het pied something to keep the visual pieds coming out, or even a visual pied, you start costing a lot more money. And I think Injumoma and Yellow Belly work really well together. I think that'd be a fun project, for a codon that's not real expensive.
So, okay, the follow-up here. This is the same guy, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't reading down below until now. So if you're starting a small business, then you have several considerations you want to take. I would say you put one of your 3 pairs into something that you can sell to pay the bills, because you got to have your time is worth money. The rats you're feeding off are worth money. The electricity you're running is worth money. So you want to pay the bills. So aim at something like that, because not everybody's able or wanting to go into like a $3,000 animal, right? So you got to have tiers. So I would probably tier it out. If you're doing 3 pairs, one low end, do pied to pied, or pied to a yellow belly pied, like you said. Then you would go something mid-level, because you want to reach 2 different spaces in the market. And then something that you're super interested in that might be your high-end option, or maybe what you're interested in is in the middle. But
so in the middle,
it's sort of a perfect ratio right there. You've got 3 different tiers of the hobby that you can hit, and you have obviously it's easier to move a $500 animal than it is a $5,000 animal. That's gonna, you get
so your
all day.
Your mid-level one, you would get like a het pied with a couple of codoms. I would suggest something cool like chocolate black pastel, something like that would be fun with yellow belly pied. So a het pied. Okay, so I like that stuff. I think it's fun. Yeah, OD Dreamsicles is now. So now you're starting to talk like if you want to get into a higher end.
Those are high end pairings, and they're awesome.
Yes.
It takes a little longer to move those.
Yeah.
Just a warning.
But also, it's also more investment up front too.
If that's what you're passionate about, you're not going to mind going in there every day and cleaning that animal and feeding that animal and taking care of that animal. So
Orange Dreamsicles is something Ryan loves. We're going to be producing Dreamsicles this year, hopefully.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. And so like, it's a really great combination. Highways are fun. Freeways are.
And that's an albino pied for the uninitiated, right? Or like lavender albino pied or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Lavender albino pied. I forgot. It's not all Python world this year.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different things to work with. And I think that's interesting what you said is that like I think people go high dollar right off the bat, but you were saying like that might be harder to move or harder to sell. So
especially starting a small business, like you don't have your name out there yet. So like maybe I'm saying but like let's say like take one of the top guys like Justin Caboclo has a Dreamsicle for sale and you have a Dreamsicle for sale. Who's going to sell it first? You know what I mean? So like you got to take that in consideration because it takes a long time to get name recognition and get out there because you got to build trust with people because it's a lot of money we're talking about here.
Yeah, and also like think about like trying to sell hets. Like a lot of times people when they're first starting off, you can't add money for a het. Like you can say, "Oh, it's a het pied." Nobody wants to buy a het pied from you because they don't know who you are. You don't have any way to like anybody to trust that you have a het pied. So,
well, you can document it very well, so
yes,
that you can prove what you're doing,
but it's still difficult. So you got to keep that in consideration, especially if it's your first one. Going a visual pied to a visual pied, you got, that's much better to do than having hets or possible hets. And
so it's all about your individual situation. If you're fine with sitting on animals for 6 months and you can take care of that, then go for it. If you can't, take that in consideration. It's very variable depending on your personal situation, but always go after what you're super interested in because there's a lot of long hours and days of shoveling poop. And it's got to be worth it. So,
yeah, not to mention, females throwing slugs, incubation, the nicest animal you produce has a kink in it. I mean, that's just all the things.
It's not all roses for sure.
No, but then again, I mean, we do it just for the hell of it. I mean, I've gained and we've all gained a lot from just breeding snakes. Such a seemingly dumb pursuit that we all are together in doing.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd be making a ton of money if we'd stop buying animals.
Yeah. Know your numbers. You were talking about that earlier. So we spent a little bit more than double what we brought in last year. And it was the most revenue we brought in a year so far. So
full disclosure,
we spent a lot. It's just how it goes.
It all depends on your situation. If you're building for something that you think is going to be good,
if you get really excited and you start just buying things because you were, maybe had a little to drink or something and it just happens.
Shots fired, man.
So have you regretted a decision that you've made in that context? Like,
oh, heck yeah.
I've never have. He complains all the time.
I've not regretted buying generally, to be honest. I've regretted selling a couple of things that we shouldn't have. There's a story that I can tell you real quick, but there was a time where, there's an up and down with reptile breeding, right? So you have, we're having babies, we're selling babies, and then there's a long stretch when you're not, or that things aren't happening and you kind of are just in the weeds, and you start getting like, oh man, what are we doing? Like, and but you got to keep paying the bills, And so I said, we should really cut down on the ball python. And this was me. It's my fault, really. But I said that we should cut down on the ball python collection that we have and focus on, a bunch of diversity and lower the amount of animals that we have total. So we just said, all right, we're going to pick these projects. We're real strict about it. And we sold off everything else. And
sold
then
off about half of the collection.
Half of the ball python collection, yeah. And I really regret it now because there's stuff that we had that we sold for real cheap or that we just, we're like, hey, we just want to cut a line in the sand kind of. And now we're kind of rebuying certain genes and we're like going after certain projects that we used to have that we don't anymore and we miss it. And it, if we would have done that, we would have been a year or more ahead of where we are.
We'd be 2 or 3.
Okay, let's just, you don't have to make me feel bad. I mean,
it's fine. We all make mistakes.
But yeah, so there are regrets. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think that's a big one though. Like, especially you get to growing up an animal and you can be like so close to producing and then you sell them for some reason. And
to sell 1,000-gram female ball pythons is a huge mistake. After, you raise them up for 16, 18 months and they're like, oh, hey everybody, all my hard work. Why don't you just buy it from me for a deal? Like, that's terrible.
How about we've talked a lot about our shortcomings. Thanks a lot. What about you guys?
We've had an entire species that we got into, and we got into like rather quick, rather hot and heavy. That was what
I was gonna say. It's not like understanding myself and knowing like, do I really like this thing, and do I actually want to work with it and breed it? And I'll convince myself that I want to work with it and breed it, but turns out I just like it.
And I have to work with it and breed it, by the way. There's no you in that.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, this is the Australian water pythons this knucklehead wants to buy from you guys.
Well, it doesn't have to be from you guys because if you guys aren't breeding, like
yeah, we're not breeding those. But they're so nice.
Actually, also lives in Philly, who's now messaging me from that video, talking about how he has a female that he's pretty sure is gravid, and I'm like,
what's his name?
What?
Who is that?
I was gonna say, I don't think Eric bred him this year.
No.
This guy Vincent. I don't know his last name.
Oh, I don't know Vincent. No, there's.
How do I not know someone who lives in Philly with a water python?
No, who is that Carpet Fest? Who does waters?
Yeah, that's so indescript.
He's tall. Okay, not helpful.
He's tall.
I have his last name, but I'll tell you after.
Isn't there like 5 people who even work with waters?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's.
Okay, so list the 5. He has to be one of them.
No, I don't know. I'm not that.
He lives in Philly, and he actually lives close to you.
That's quite odd.
Okay. He works with a bunch of. He works with ball pythons more so, but he just mentioned. Oh, by the way, I also have
Australians or pop or.
I think they're Australian. I think they're Australians from what he said, but obviously I'm gonna.
Ben's no expert, so
I'm no. They look the same. I mean,
I just want them so that like when they get a little bit bigger.
Ben's like, man, they look really cool. And I'm like, yeah, well, they're gonna bite the crap out of them. And you're like, yeah, but they stay at your house, so it's not my problem.
Well, she just
ours
jumped.
Actually just scared me when I came back in the room. I walked by. And ours has no fear hitting its head at the side of the tank, and it scared me because it was behind me. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, she strikes the side of the.
She strikes all like she's gonna hurt herself one day.
That's great.
Bound to happen.
But she doesn't bite when you pick her up.
She just strikes I don't know.
That happens. They're real easy, right?
Like you're gonna buy a house soon, so it's fine.
But I feel like we never got to the point. We were talking about the Cow Kings.
Oh,
right?
So yeah. So I got really into Cow Kings, and it's like it wasn't like I was into it for a week and we bought it. I really was into it for a very, very long time. And they were beautiful. I was really into just like, regular striped ones and everything like that. But then we got them, and I'm just not into something that's going to randomly bite me.
They're just
for
dummies.
No reason. Well, just for no reason. Like, and when they bite you, they don't let go. They're just like hanging out.
It's not a terrible bite, but yeah.
But it's like,
let go of you.
It's hard when you open a tub, 10 of them.
Yeah, I think we also just happen to get a lot of psychos. Like, there was a lot of them that were just like constantly moving in their enclosure and like
and like biting themselves when when you pull open a tub, they just start biting everything.
There is a learning curve with them. Like we were vending with one of our friends, and we didn't have any experience with them before. And somebody, I don't think it was us, but somebody that was vending there accidentally put 2 of them together in the same bin or whatever their display section, and they started eating each other. I was like, oh crap. I didn't know that was gonna happen.
Yep.
Stuff happens.
Well, yeah, we've had when we were breeding the Holbrook Eye or the Florida Kings.
Yeah.
And
Brooks.
I think it maybe even when we were breeding Cow Kings, they've all tried to eat each other.
Eat themselves. So it's just like, now I'm like, okay, I like the Brooks. They're much calmer.
They're not really. She just doesn't work with them.
Babe.
I've been bit by
they're crazy.
My Brooks, when you open and you feed them, they jump out of the tubs.
They seem so much
and they
calmer
wrap
than
like if you give them a mouse, they wrap every inch of their body around every inch of the mouse. Like, yeah, they're not calm. I wouldn't give people a false sense of security.
And now I kind of did it again with the Goinai. They're psycho, or it's psycho.
Oh yeah,
so
well, they're basically Florida Kings.
I've loved Goinais for 2 years now, and I've wouldn't let us buy one until I got exactly what I wanted, and we found it, and he bought it and surprised me with it, and I held it once since we got it.
I think Ben may have held it. I don't remember.
I don't know.
Ben's a wuss. If he bites a lot, Ben didn't hold it.
Well, he got bit by an eastern black king snake, which I haven't seen happen before.
Hey, I don't. I was telling you guys when I was there, I don't mind getting bit. It's just I'm real flinchy about it for some odd reason. Lizards and stuff like that, I'm not flinchy at all. But snakes, for some reason, I get flinchy. And we've been working them for a while. I don't know. I just get a little flinchy, but I'm trying really hard to, I'll disclose it to you and your friends right now. But when I'm on camera, I'm like, oh, you just gotta let it happen. And I've been really good at the Oak Show. One of my friends had a Burmese python, a young one, and it was all hissy. And I reached in, it was in a tank, and I reached in and I grabbed it. It's an albino pied Burm, beautiful animal, right? So I pick it up and it's like trying to bite me, and I'm like, oh no, this is really cool, and it strikes me in the chest, and I'm just like, nothing, no problems, I'm really trying hard, but
he jumps when a pygmy python bites him.
They're like this big, man. they're real big. Yeah, you want to grab a pygmy python?
It's more fun when we bring animals on.
Yeah, go for it. How many pygmies do you have? So
we have 4 adults and 2 babies right now. The babies are really hard to get eating. They eat baby knobtail geckos in wild, and knobtail geckos aren't cheap. So you can't really you can't feed them what they naturally get. So you have to, I'm talking babies are this long, and the inside of a pen, the ink part of the shaft of the pen, that's how thin they are. And you got to force feed them mouse legs.
Nope.
And that's probably 4 inches for people on the audio who can't see.
Look, I don't know. It could be it's hard to say how. But they're really small, and so a lot of times they, we had a bunch, or we had 4 last year, 4 babies, and they all ended up not making it because of it's hard just to get them started. Once they get going, they're a great animal.
That's actually a large one.
This is an adult.
So this is an adult male.
An adult male, yeah.
And this is the baby.
And that baby is 8 months old?
Yeah, 8 months old.
Oh, wow.
So, and has he taken meals on his own?
These guys have just started taking meals on their own.
Yeah, after 8 months of force feeding. These are the smallest pythons in the world. Super awesome. When they have a clutch, it's like a tiny little group of eggs that fit in your hand. They're just really, really cool animals. And the lighting's not great in here, so you're not seeing they get kind of reddish and pink. They're pretty cool animals. Australian species.
But as in the wild, they're obligate gecko feeders.
Yeah, I was saying knobtails.
Oh, you told them already? Sorry, I was in the other room. So getting them switched over could be challenging, but once they do, this thing is like a garbage disposal. It will never stop eating.
It's seriously, it's the craziest thing. They will attack your tongs for a python to attack your tongs like in the bin, it's nutty. But you know, once you get them out, they're fine, you know, just like anything else. But the babies are just so hard to get going, and it's just crazy that it's a switch happens and then all of a sudden they're just going. So they're hard to find. And Justin Julander is like the guy in the United States. He wrote a book and he's writing, actually, I don't know if he published his next book, but he's writing another book about them. And they're really awesome animals and fun. But again, if you're having an adult, it's a good pet. Like, it's great. They're fine.
Always get established feeders if you do find them. Don't buy them as babies because they're going to be hard for you.
Yeah, you don't buy babies. So, and most people don't sell babies. Like, we have people ask us all the time for them. And we produced 5 this year, and 3 of them didn't make it over the time. And I mean, it just, sometimes things happen. I don't know if it's that they take a food funny and it gets caught, or it's hard to say, you know, but.
They also have a really high metabolism, so you're going to want to force feed them like twice a week or every 3 days, which is tough on the digestive system. I'm going to go put these away because I can't talk.
Yeah. So yeah, their metabolism is higher than what other pythons are. You wouldn't think it, but it was one of the mistakes that we made. So we have friends in Australia, and, you know, we talk to all the time. We're like, hey, so how do you do this? And what are you guys doing with these and whatever? The guy, Peter Birch, who wrote the book, he co-authored it with Justin Julander. We're talking to him about these Australian, you know, pythons. And he's like, oh, yeah, you know, you got to do this and that and whatever. And none of our babies made it last year. And so this year going into it, we're like, hey, you know, like, this is what we're doing. This is the temperatures, this is humidities. And he goes, oh, you should probably feed them more. And we're like, what do you mean? We're like, we waited for a little while just offering to see if they take it on their own. And then we started force feeding once a week, once every like week and a half. And because force feeding's rough, you know? And he goes, no, you should be feeding them like 2 or 3 times a week. And we're like, what? Like from the start, like before they shed. So it's tough. It's a tough species to really get started. It's tough to do with, but great and rewarding animal though.
Yeah, it's a passion project.
As an adult, they're great. They are.
So for stuff like that, or like your animals that require like a lot of extra time, how do you guys kind of divvy up the responsibility? Are you just like together all night every night? Like,
whoa. We're not together.
There's no divvying up anything. Gay jokes aside.
So I come over, you know, once or twice a week, and I help out sometimes. A lot of times though, we're doing videos.
You do a great job.
And I am the guy that does all the business, not every piece of business of it, but I do a lot of the business, and
that helps out whenever I ask him to help. But mostly I just take care of everything.
He takes care of the animals. I take care of the business stuff. He does some of the social media. I do some of the social media, but I do all the video editing and buying of stickers.
The whole thing is with stuff like that, we don't want to mass produce that, because obviously to be able to maintain the level of care that they need to get them started would be very difficult for me to manage with. I mean, we've got close to 200 animals here. So we only have 2 pairs of adults, and I don't think we plan on keeping more than 2 pairs of adults. So we may produce 10 or 12 a year. And that's an animal that I already have people waiting. Just whenever they're for sale, let me know. And they'll move out as soon as they're ready, but I will never let them go until they're garbage disposals like the rest of them. So
yeah, it's like, it's a serious, like, even the guys that are really good at it are like, oh, I can't sell you any young ones. They can be like 2 years old or a year and a half old or something like that, because you need them to be positive that they're established. If not, they're not going to make it. Like, it's tough.
We think about them a lot, actually, because people, when we've been shows, people ask us like, oh, what's an animal that's going to stay, you know, so small? And we're like, well, it's not one you want to keep. Like, might be the size you want, but it's not gonna be easy for you.
Once they're going though, they're great and they're super easy. And children's pythons, there's a bunch that
they're real
similar size.
Once they're eating, but the problem is you get in, like we were talking about, that balance of the business side and the hobby side and passion side. if I spend a year force feeding an animal for you to get it established and it's bulletproof and it's super rare, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You know what I mean? But a lot of people that are asking that question, they may not want to spend $1,000 on their pet. You know what I mean?
Or $1,200, yeah.
So like it's but you gotta understand, the person who's selling that to you literally was like hunched over tease feeding this thing, trying to get it to eat, and like doing that 3-4 times a week for like 8, 9, 10 months, maybe even a year. Like that's what you're paying for.
Yeah. And that's, you know, they as a rare python goes, you know, $1,200 for a year and a half, 2-year-old.
It really depends on what you're out.
Yeah.
Right now, that's for probably you and I and people that are deep into it, that's like a normal price. But like the people that are out there that they go to shows and they see animals for $25-$50, they're like, $1,200, what? I'm like, yeah, this probably not for you.
And you know, for the listeners that are listening, we used to be like,
we were that.
I spent $300 on a snake, and I'm like, this is, you know, bless you. Was that a sneeze?
Yeah, I was trying to get him to turn off the sound before I sneezed, but it wasn't fast enough.
Maybe we can still see you.
No, if you move like that, you
can't
see anything.
Oh, what is she doing over there? So, but yeah, we, you know, everybody has to start somewhere, and things are expensive, and it's a lot of money sometimes. So, you know, you spend $300 on a snake, and you're like, wow, this is like crazy gangbusters. I can't believe I just did that. And then now we're like, oh, I can't believe we just spent, you know, $6,500 on a skink, and you're like,
it almost makes you lose a little bit respect for the amount of money, because we go so accustomed to whether it's selling snakes for that much or buying snakes from that much. Like, that's kind of a ridiculous amount of money for a reptile to normally.
You get desensitized pretty quickly. You're like, I could put a really good down payment on a car for that.
Or like, sometimes we think about, we're like, oh man, I need to buy this thing, and it's like $100, and you're like, oh man, that's crazy. I don't want to spend that, like, for something for life, like not in the business.
You're like, hey bro, you need health insurance. You're like,
yeah. It's like, health insurance. Let's just buy some more ball pythons.
I'm young. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's so ridiculous how we like $100 means something different depending on what we're talking about.
We get mad when it's groceries, but snakes not a big deal.
Yeah,
I hate spending, you know, $12 on certain cheesesteaks, but some of them are worth it. You know?
Or like we needed like a really sturdy like shelving unit just to store stuff, and like the really good ones are like $150. And we were literally standing in Home Depot like, I can't get myself to buy that. Like,
it's also like the same mentality where you buy the $1,000 animal, but you only want to spend like $10 to keep it. Makes no sense.
Yeah. We say that, you know, certain things like that all the time.
We're way past that point.
Yeah, you get to certain points where you're like, oh, I just had to buy this new thermostat, or I had to buy.
I bought a Herbstat 6 for these things in here, and it's like $450.
Oh.
Yeah, for a thermostat, you're like.
But it feels so good plugging all those in.
Is it like Wi-Fi enabled or anything? Nope.
I don't think so.
No, it's just 6 thermostats in one. That's all.
Yeah, it's 6 thermostats in one. Herbstats are good, so.
That's good.
That's something that we haven't, because we don't get to mess with them a lot anymore. I used to use the Vivarium Electrics, but I've heard I know most people kind of prefer the Herbstats.
We use them.
We use the VEs on all our ball pythons. The only reason we went with the Herbstat with this is because the Herbstat 6, I'm spending like $115 on a VE1, or I can spend $450 on 6 of those combined into one. I'm saving $150. So, but it's all relative.
Yep, 6 probes and 6 plugs.
And what do you guys do for rodents? Do you need to get a certain amount of live? Do you produce a certain amount?
We're really lucky that we have a rodent supplier in South Jersey that we're friends with. So we can get live whenever we feel like, usually. 90% of the time.
It's a little bit of a ride, and we have if something goes wrong, we have a friend or two that produce. We could tell you the rat story. We tried to produce rats.
Yes, let's hear.
When I say tried, it's not that we produced rats.
We produced the crap out of some rats.
We produced some rats.
Let me tell you something. As the guy who took care of the animals, and rats are animals.
Yeah.
We're like, we got to breed our own food because we're spending so much money on rats. So it sounded like a great idea because we never bred rats before.
So we created the rattery. So
we're like, what are we going to do? Because they smell, and my wife doesn't like things that smell. That's fine. I don't like it either. But
so my brother was throwing away a trailer, like a tow along,
a 20-foot camper.
Yeah,
pretty much.
He was like, I'm gonna sell it, and I was like, let me just have that, and I'm gonna turn it into the rattery. So we gutted it. Ryan and I gutted it. We built these rat racks, and we stuffed it.
Custom rat racks that fit in there, and we insulated it, and we started the rattery in my backyard.
Yeah, and it was great. I was spending so I had to feed our collection and buy rats for breeding every week, and I didn't know anybody that was really breeding the rats well, like at that volume. So I was buying it from a pet store. So I was spending
$5-6 a rat.
Yeah. So I was seriously spending like $300 a week, $400 a week on rats, right? And I did that for like 3 months. Right?
That wasn't for a lot of rats.
It was, yeah. So we did that for like 3 months, and Ryan got it established. And he's like mad scientist over here now. So he's like, this one's colored different. I'm putting it with these. This one's balding. This one doesn't have a tail.
Well, hold on.
This one like
color morphs and pattern morphs in rats is really cool.
It's fun because they're so fast. Like you can find out in like 3 months, quickly. 6 months. Yeah. You're like, you see the results. And then all of a sudden we were producing like 450 rats a week, and we're like, oh crap.
Wow.
We needed like 50 rats a week. We're like, well, let's make more because we'll sell the surplus to help offset the cost. It's difficult.
It's tricky to do that sometimes.
The selling part is a little bit different.
Yeah.
This was real early on in R&B Reptiles, so we didn't have nearly the network we have now.
Yeah, I could sell rats all day if I wanted to now,
So this was like year 2 or year.
You were
6 months.
Yeah,
maybe 6 months.
Ryan still lived down the shore then, and it was.
So there was
a great idea.
There was a wildlife rehabber that was down the street from us that had like birds of prey and like foxes and beavers.
Super cool.
So we were like, well, he needs food from him. We'll give him a really screaming deal on these things, and
like 50 cents a large, like that kind of screaming deal.
But we still had like 300 extras. So.
Yeah, we would we'd freeze off, which was a whole thing. We'd freeze off a whole bunch, and so I used to live down the shore, and I was a bachelor. I was by myself, and
you're still a bachelor.
Well, sort of. I have a girlfriend, but so anyway, there is women involved. But anyway, I had
He says women loosely.
All the girls were typing in the chat, so
yeah. There's tons of. Yes, Erica. I'm sorry, I'm not single. But she did not say that. Okay. So anyway, people would come over and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, do you have something to drink?" And they'd grab out of my fridge and they'd like open my freezer for ice, and it's packed with rats. And it's one of those moments that people don't forget. Like, what is in these bags? And they're like, why is there? Oh,
it's super normal for us, but for normal people, it's not normal at all.
Yeah, I would suggest buying a separate freezer, which is what we have here. And what we've done is you have a freezer for all your rats, but
don't bring up this subject. This is a really
no, someone
really
just won't
subject.
Type in freezer into Google and buy one.
I finally conceded to doing it because we used to like not eat frozen things, but now we're eating more frozen foods because we're lazy and busy.
Yeah.
And I would really like them out of my freezer.
Yeah, we may have to separate.
It's
the freezers, not us.
Oh, thank goodness. I got nervous there for a second. I see that she didn't even flinch. I'm like, oh.
Well, we may have to separate.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, freezers aren't. You get like a chest freezer. You can get it on a good deal. I don't know.
A couple $100.
Yeah, a couple $100, and then you're in Home Depot again. Like, I don't know if I can spend this couple $100.
Right. See, it's the same thing. He'll buy it on the snake tomorrow, but spending a couple $100 on a freezer is like unheard of.
Yeah.
I spent probably like $350 on isopods last week.
Oh,
350.
That's one thing I can't believe.
I
love isopods.
Yeah, rubber duckies. What'd you get?
Nothing. I have to.
You got 4 rubber duckies for $350. Yeah. Okay. Let's come clean. Isopods are way overpriced. What the heck?
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Come on.
They're super tiny.
I mean, there's nothing that is going to keep them being at the price they're at, though. I mean, it's only going to get lower.
We like them. We have them. Ryan can breed them really well. But some of them, you're like, oh, this one looks different and it's cool. It is cool, but I've seen them selling for like $30 an isopod, and you're like,
yeah, I don't get that.
There's some for $60. It's insane.
And they're like, oh, but all right, so you bought 12 of them. I'm going to send you 30 of them because half of them are going to die in the way. And you're like, you're sending me 30 when I just paid $50 each for them.
To be fair, they're super fun.
They are super fun.
They take me back to when I was a little kid and I'm turning over logs in the forest and looking at all the bugs. Like, yeah, I get it, but it is hard to spend that kind of money on isopods.
Not for everybody, apparently.
Isopod King of Philly.
Yeah, you are
like a lot. I mean, I still wish you hadn't spit.
Dog. We're going all in.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
how do they even count? How do they even count 100 lots? Like,
I don't know. I'm just taking their word for it. It could be 25.
We're like, we breed, dubia roaches for like fun, kind of. We have animals to eat them, right? But we don't do a lot with them. And people are like, hey, can we buy some? We're like, sure. We'll give you half the colony because we don't know how many are in there. It could be a couple thousand, but I don't know.
Like, I need 50. I'm like, I'm just going to shake a bunch into this bucket. Does that look good to you? Okay.
That's pretty much what we do.
I
don't know how to count them. Like, how do people do that? I can see counting like 12, but yeah, 100 lots? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's it's interesting. It's a little corner of the hobby that I think more people are going to be keeping bioactive in the future, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I think the market's going to grow, not necessarily the prices. They'll only go down because they're not hard to produce. But I don't know. It's fun. Lots of different color phases. Reptile people like to collect things, so why not us?
That's true. We have spiny assassin bugs, and I threw springtails and isopods in there as a cleanup crew because they need a little bit of humidity to lay their eggs in. And then I watched the assassin bugs eat all the isopods in like 15 minutes. I was like, it's a bad idea.
How many inverts do you have, and what do you have as far as
way more than my wife wants to hear me say right now.
She's not around.
So we have only one species of tarantula. Bihamori. We have 6 of those. Most of them, ironically, are female. We only really wanted a pair, so I don't know what we're going to do all these things. We have a couple colonies of isopods and springtails. We have some giant African millipedes, which are really cool and fun. And we'd love to figure out how to breed those, but not many people are having success. We have tailless whip scorpions. We have a bunch of CB emperor scorpions, like 13 of them that we're growing up right now for a colony. What am I forgetting? We have giant cave cockroaches.
The
spiny assassin bugs, which are the most awesome invert ever.
Yeah, they're really cool.
If you want something
that's special about them, I don't know much about inverts.
You can bring up a picture of one. I see you have that fancy technology where you can cast the spiny assassin bugs. First of all, they look crazy. They have these huge spines. They're bright red and black, but they're like keeping little lions. Like, if you want something that's super interactive, they're always out in the open. They're not scared of anything, and if you throw food in there, they will attack them like a pack, and it's just an amazing thing to watch. It's really weird.
So what do you do? I mean, besides isopods, what do you feed them?
Dubia roaches mainly.
at this creature.
That's a baby. If you do the they're called horrida, like king spiny assassin bugs. They have these huge spikes that come out of the back. It looks like a mutant alien. It's really cool.
Do you touch it?
No. You do not want to get bit by one of those. You do not.
So,
those are look, don't touch.
So are they venomous?
They are venomous. There's one right there. Yeah, I'm pointing at it like you can see my finger. They are venomous, but they are hesitant to mess around with you if you put your hand in there.
No. See, creepy.
But you see like huge spikes coming off the back, like they're ridiculous looking.
This is a creature from hell.
And they grow to like 2 inches or more. Like they're a pretty beefy animal, and they will hunt whatever you throw in there as a pack. You'll get a little one that's like just a tiny baby, and it will literally tackle something like 4 times its size and take it down. It's crazy.
Where do these things live?
Where they live? Africa.
These ones, there's ones in New Jersey, but not.
They live in my rack over here.
Oh, there's other assassin bugs all over the world, really, but
there's
those ones are the
U.S.
most
assassin.
rare.
They're called wheel bugs here, but
yeah.
Are they all like devils?
You don't want to get bit by one, but most of them are shy and they don't want to muck with you. So if you're not doing something stupid, you don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, apparently the ones that are around here are a lot more aggressive than those African ones, to be honest. So
are they kissing bugs, they call them?
I don't know.
You ever see the stories that come across Facebook? Oh, this kissing bug sent somebody to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're talking about. It's a wheel bug or an assassin bug that's from North America.
I feel like I saw something about a kissing bug recently, but I could definitely be making that up. Wait.
Yeah, there was a whole thing on them this past summer.
But they're super colorful. They're very active. They don't hide a lot. They'll be out so you can watch them.
These African ones. The ones here are like brown, right?
Yeah, they're not very colorful here, but they are still very cool to watch.
Cool to watch. Scary to be playing with.
Do they interact with each other in any type of way?
While they're hunting, they'll sit just next to each other and ignore each other. But while they're hunting, they will hunt as a pack. 3 or 4 of them will pile up on a bigger prey, take them down, and all feed off of it. It's really interesting because a lot of the inverts that you see are very shy. Like even the scorpions, like if you drop a thing in there, they want you to leave before they try to attack it and eat it. Like these things they don't care.
Yeah, they're super fun to watch, and they're really colorful and pretty. The wheel bugs here, what you were just showing, are definitely not as cool looking, but definitely not something you want to get stung by.
Still something that I wouldn't expect to find in New Jersey,
Yeah.
It's still a very unique creature.
There's not a ton of those in the United States either. So we like rare stuff.
They I think what was out was that they can be invasive a bit. So if they get into an area where they do well in, they'll end up eating a lot of insects or harming. That's what that was. Well, that was in Pennsylvania here because we had a whole thing where I work in Philly, and there's a whole thing. They were saying if you see them, they ask that you kill them.
Similar to the lanternfly issues.
Yeah, kind of the idea. So, and I don't know the whole story behind it or what the deal was, but it was just like, I don't know. I guess they can be.
The lanternfly was my first like
$5.
The lanternfly was my first like experience with like truly like an infestation. Like I think I've heard like growing up like, oh, there's a lot of these bugs are now in this season, like watch out. But like lanternflies were truly everywhere. It was such a and like watching them like get bigger over time. What?
Was that this year or you said when you were a kid?
No, well, when I was a kid, I heard about like random bug infested, but it never I never really noticed it. But last summer when we were here in Philly is when the lanternfly thing happened.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it truly felt like an infestation. Like they were everywhere.
Well, we had those Japanese beetles for a while when I was a kid.
We have them here. I hate those things.
And then in Colorado, when I was in Colorado, we had the some like pine beetle that basically killed all the trees. I know someone's gonna message me tomorrow and be like, "It's not what it's called. This is what it's called." But yeah.
Is that your Colorado accent?
No, that's my person who wants to correct me in a message tomorrow.
Oh gosh.
These beetles.
Stephen Poole asked which type of assassin bug was in the news some years back for potentially transmitting shug. No, I'm not gonna say that. Shug.
That was probably the native one in the U.S. because that was the one that was making the rounds. Like people were talking about how getting a bite from one was sent them to the hospital and stuff. While it is a painful experience, it shouldn't be life-threatening or whatever.
It's the same with a lot of, I think, insects. You know, like if you get bit by a tarantula, you're like, it's gonna stink, but it could be that you
depends.
Right. But it could be that you're, allergic or you have anaphylaxis. It's not necessarily the majority of people would actually have a bad reaction. So yeah, I'm not positive. Hercules beetles are really, really interesting, but more so about the larva than they are about the actual beetle itself.
So the thing with those is they're really impressive for a short period of time, but most of the time they are under the ground in the dirt growing. So you don't get to see them until they, turn into a beetle and start to mate. And then I think
so they can be a larva. Yeah, they can be a larva for a really, really long time. Like I forget exactly how long it is. You might want to look it up. But yeah, you can see the pictures of them. I think it's like 8 months or something. It's nuts. It's really long time as a larva, and then they're a beetle for like a few weeks or something. Like it's
the breeding process.
Yeah, and that's it. So it's the craziest life cycle. They're super cool as a larva. But
with that being said, I encourage you to get involved in that project.
Yeah, you can find.
Gross.
Yeah. They get real. See, they're awesome as larvae.
Nope.
And then
awesome if you like a giant larva of some sort.
So I just posted on my Facebook a couple days ago a picture of a Hercules beetle cake. So it was the larva, but it was huge and it was just a cake. So people are like cutting into it. Yeah, the beetle's awesome looking.
So I can't watch.
Dude, that does not. That looks like it's from a horror movie.
I can't look at it. Yeah, it looks like Aliens vs Predator or something.
But they don't live long as a beetle. It's nuts. Like
it makes a chamber out of its own feces.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh please,
like
no.
I actually know somebody breeding them. If you're interested, call them 856-649-3149.
I'm not breeding them, but look how pretty they are, man.
He knows who's breeding them though.
I do know. I usually have a guy for that.
What does that thing eat?
Poop.
It's poop. Thank you. It's poop.
So that's it.
A lot of people raise them to adulthood and then they'll taxidermy them and pin them, which is another side of the invert hobby, I guess, is once the animals pass, they turn them into trophies. But
yeah,
I haven't gotten into that part yet.
I'm guessing a lot of these insects are like wild caught. Is there any urge to breed them, or how the hell do you breed those?
We're breeding them.
Yeah, we're trying. So aside from a couple cats and a dog, any animal that comes into this house, Ryan tries to breed.
I can't breed it. We ain't getting it.
Just kidding. You never tried to breed me, but
man, this is why we don't do live streams.
But yeah, we try to breed everything. It's fun. It's the fun of it,
Actually, invertebrates are pretty easy to breed. I got into it with zero knowledge of invertebrates. I was just like, yeah, I can figure this out. No big deal. I've been breeding animals for, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever. It's not that hard.
We haven't bred the tarantulas yet. I know that somebody asked that a while ago. We haven't bred them yet, but the ones that we have took a while to get to maturity.
It's just the ones that are in like really specific microhabitats, like the giant African millipedes. They live their life cycle and breeding cycle in really specific environments, and if you can't replicate that, the rain cycle, the type of substrate, the moisture level in that substrate, and all these different things, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's really, really specific. Some of them you have to dial in perfectly to get it done, but a lot of them will just do it on their own.
And I mean, if you did find a way to breed them or you did have success, I mean, how many babies would that millipede have?
Oh my goodness, like 100.
Yeah.
So it goes a long way.
One
if
for
you
each
figure
leg?
it out.
Yeah. And we bought our pair for like $220 or something like that for a pair of just 2 insects.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah. Oh,
and you talk about isopods cost.
These are millipede like
Dog, we could bought
like
8
they're like I never know how big are they? They're like 8 to 12 inches long.
Yeah, if you give me a
Giant
ducky isopod that's 8 to 12 inches long, I'll spend that money all day.
Size doesn't always matter, and they're all still bugs, in my opinion.
Okay, well, factually wrong on 2 accounts. So
I'm not getting involved in that one.
they have like Hoffman's egg eye. They have some pretty big isopods now. I mean, like 5-6 inches almost.
Those are impressive. And you can get the marine ones. They grow to like a foot.
Dude, Tom too, who was in the chat before, he sent me a random picture of this aquatic isopod that is like bigger than a rugby ball.
Yeah, they're crazy.
That's nuts.
No, that's not natural.
Yeah, that's a marine isopod. Yeah.
Yeah,
please don't ever even
Google it. Google it right now.
Giant.
I say we start breeding coconut crabs. I mean,
I don't know why you didn't bring that home. That would have been awesome.
would have been tricky.
That one does look more like a crustacean.
Well, they are.
Well, duh. I'm just saying it looks like it. The rest look like bugs.
What you believe to be bugs, what I believe to be a crustacean.
Yep, they look like bugs.
Holy
that looks not real. It looks like someone
Giant isopod fried rice.
Yeah,
so it's not real. I was right.
I don't know why. That's it eating a alligator. That's crazy.
Dude, they're just picking at this dead gator.
They can eat through that?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a video of them at depth in the ocean where the isopods are eating a shark. Like they attack a live shark and eat it. Like it's crazy.
Wow.
Dude, this is
These are
something.
impressive.
Okay. My
Is that a good way to end
stomach
it, or
level
what?
is at like between the beetles and that.
It's super weird.
Yeah.
So close to puking.
Brian's trying to breed water bears.
Water what?
Google those.
Oh God, are they gross?
Wait, what was it?
Water bears?
You don't even have to try. They grow on your skin.
Yeah.
I'm very confused.
They're just like
Tardigrades,
bacteria.
Tardigrades.
Y'all, I'm gonna puke.
They're like microbial.
You can't even kill those things. You shoot them in outer space, they still live.
They look like
Figure
something
out-
from Ghostbusters.
You guys are already a breeding project for them.
I thought we were bug people. What are we talking about here?
Stop. It also, I can't. I'm grossed
Wait,
out.
since we have the Google going, is there any species that you guys really want to get into that you should show us? And then I'll tell you the one that Ryan wants to get into.
Please, one that's not gross. That's not gonna make me puke.
No, I don't really know. Is there anything that we're really that
Hairless
into?
hedgehog.
Hairless
A what?
A hairless hedgehog.
No, anything hairless is out.
No, they're really cool.
I hate hairless cats. And so naked ball.
That
rat.
looks like a ball sack. Actually, that is a ball.
That is exactly what it is.
They are in Europe. We can find them.
I know a guy.
I know a guy.
You want to get in on a project? This is the next big thing, right
They're a
here.
few $100, but then getting them here and all that, like it's a thing. You know, I think we could do it for like $600 or so.
I can't look.
Yeah, hairless hedgehog. There you go.
Well, there's one attached to a chimp.
That's a coin purse.
What about your projects? You guys are.
I mean, we like the species that we work with.
Probably one of my really a species that I would love to have, but I don't really want to keep. I have a few of those. It's like I want to have it, but I would need to pay more attention to it. is the Sunnicollis triapsis, the western green rat snake. And so this is actually native to Arizona. And
that is a reasonable choice. I congratulate you.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. It wasn't even
doesn't look like ball sack. I mean, it's a green snake.
If you're not breeding ball sacks, I don't know what you're doing.
Those look really cool.
Yeah, but I think people haven't exactly figured them out 100%. So they've obviously they're native, so they've been around, but there hasn't been much success, which kind of speaks to the how hard they are to keep.
Yeah.
But we have passed our 2,000. Wow.
2,000 hours.
We've passed our 2,000 views.
We've passed our 2 hours. I'm very close to throwing up. So for something not
that's how we like to end it.
For something not gross, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they reach out to you?
Just take your phone and scan this right now. No, just kidding.
YouTube/R&B Reptiles, Instagram R_and_B_reptiles. That's real annoying. Just take the ampersand. Facebook R&B Reptiles, 856-649-3149. Anytime, day or night, we will answer your call.
By we, you mean Ben.
The guy who doesn't take care of the animals.
Yeah. So sometimes there's a trade-off there. He's like, oh, I took care of the animals all the time. And I'm like, yeah. But I just had a 3-hour conversation with a guy that wanted to tell me how to run the business. Like, stuff like that happens.
And it was a great conversation. You learned a lot.
So, yeah, there's that. Thank you.
Sweet. You can check out R&B Reptiles on YouTube, and you'll see a video of myself and also Matthew Mosa, which I mentioned earlier, which is an amazing
2 great reviews.
Yeah, very great interviews.
Very well received.
Yep. They're
What's
great.
That?
He said,
yeah, you and Matthew Mosa.
You guys knocked it out of the park, man.
It was great. It was a great time hanging out too.
Yeah, that I didn't see. I thought the pine snake was a lot closer to my face when it initially happened, but I had a little bit of room there. He probably wasn't going to get me.
It was awesome.
Look,
that pine snake was. To be honest, that's the one that I remember most of, like how I would want to keep that animal because of how, like, because it's endangered and all this stuff. Like, it's a really cool animal.
He seriously has been going on about it nonstop. He's like, those pine snakes were cool. I'm like, yeah, they were.
You'll hear them in the next room.
No, I don't know. I don't know if anyone breeds them in New Jersey. It sounds silly because we're only across a bridge, but
yeah.
I can't
do it.
I can gift one to you, but I'd have to produce a lot of them. I'm sorry. I'd have to produce a lot of them.
What if we gifted something to you? In exchange, you gifted something to us.
Well, now we're talking, but I mean, I'll dial 6, whatever. Do it again.
649-3149, anytime, day or night.
There you go. Maybe I'll hit that up later. So as for us, Port City Pythons, PortCityPythons.com, Port City Python on Instagram, Port City Pythons.
Actually, the first people that text that number right now gets free stickers.
Ooh.
Well, I'm gonna text it because we need to put it on our damn wall.
I know. We saw some of those guys. It's cool.
What
you
else?
have our address.
Again, if you guys can make it to Florida, we'll be at Carpet Fest. We will be there Friday to Sunday. We are probably going to the alligator farm. The St. Augustine alligator farm on Sunday.
And maybe even Ryan and Ben will be there.
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe you should be there. We need content.
Dude, it's Orlando. Flights there are very cheap.
It's in 4 days.
But when you do it like the day before, not as cheap.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
We're getting on standby.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. And thank you everyone for watching tonight. We will see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Later, guys.
Woo!
Awesome. Ryan and Ben will be on with you.